All right, good to go. Larena, over to you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Kyle. So thanks everybody for joining us today. So again, as Kyle said, what we're going to just do is give a quick overview. I'll do a little bit of the background, why we think this project is necessary, and then I'll turn it over to Kyle, who'll go through the specifics of the different projects that are included as part of this SSHRC Community Connections grant. So first, again, we'll acknowledge some of the support that we have for the project. I'll quickly go through some of the objectives of what we're trying to achieve with all the different programs, and then again, Kyle will look at the different and do an overview of the program activities. So again, a thank you to this couldn't have been done without the support of a number of different groups, different institutions who are providing support in different ways. Some of them could be supporting through human resources, some of them a bit financially, but we appreciate everyone who's a part of this, which again speaks to both the interdisciplinarity of this, of how these things can be successful, but also the idea about the impact being spread out through a number of different partners. So again, we appreciate everyone that's listed here and who may be listed in the future as some other additional support that we have. All right, so the objectives for this, Kyle and I talk about this a lot, but one of the main reasons for this project is to recognize that there's great research that's being done in Canadian sport, but we need to get that knowledge out there. We need to make sure that people know about what we're doing and make sure that it goes out into the community. So we want to make sure figure out different ways of how do we mobilize that knowledge, both on an interdisciplinary perspective, but also action research. So how do we do that? One of the things that we wanted to focus on with the different components of this is to develop some actual practical research skills and capacity to engage in these types of things, interdisciplinarity and impactful. We talk, these phrases come up a lot, but how do we actually do that is sometimes difficult and challenging, is figuring out how do we work with other disciplines, or how do we make sure that the scholarship that we're doing is making an impact. So some of the things that Kyle's going to talk about speak to those actual really great skills that not everyone has, but how we can foster some of those things. The third objective of this is, again, these things don't happen in isolation. Obviously, interdisciplinary doesn't happen in isolation. So how do we develop and create some of these opportunities to network with other individuals? This being one of them, but there can be many other ways of making sure that we cross paths, that we can share information, both academically, but also within the community. So these give us some of those opportunities that we'll discuss. And so the last part as well too is this idea of it's not just individuals like Kyle and myself, but it's also ensuring that future generations also are sort of the next lead in doing this type of research. So we really want to make sure that we're providing opportunities for students, graduate students, honor students, but also early career researchers so that they can be successful in their career in working in this type of research. So what do we mean by interdisciplinarity? It is this idea about working across different disciplines or subdisciplines. And some people may do this already, but we also know, or I can speak from experience, that a lot of this stuff happens in isolation. So my area is often in sport management. We tend to stay within the sport management bubble, and fail to recognize that we can work with lots of other different groups of people to learn from each other and to maybe build more successful and robust research teams. So it's trying to break out of some of those bubbles that really are artificial, but we can learn from each other. Which is also that idea of learning from different perspectives as well too. Again, if I use sport management as one example, we tend to be more practical. In comparison, sociology of sport would be more theoretical. Neither one of them is better, but it's just the idea that sometimes we can learn by working with other individuals about how to, again, make richer research projects or projects that have more impact by learning from each other and connecting in those ways. So again, we can be working with groups in disciplines, sociology, management, policy, health studies, leisure, recreation, sport, all bring forth with them sometimes different and unique perspectives that can be helpful to each other. The other sort of critical thing that's going on right now is we need to show that our research does have impact. Again, going beyond the historical, people would read our research in journals, but making a real difference within communities, with individuals, with organizations. And how this can be done is a lot of different ways, but we need to be open, we need to be creative, we need to think differently about how do we actually get our research out there, ensure that people are actually using it, whether it's policymakers or people working actually within the communities. So some of those skill sets that are associated with that are creating different ways to exchange knowledge. There's different ways to translate knowledge, again, probably from more an academic perspective, but to something that's more understood by more people. And how do we also co-produce knowledge with other individuals, again, breaking ourselves out of these artificial ivory tower or silos that we exist in our different disciplines. So putting them two together, that's sort of the impetus of this entire project, is trying to, again, develop skill sets, develop opportunities and networking opportunities so that we can foster and encourage, in particular, the next generation of researchers to do more interdisciplinary types of research and to have the skill sets to actually really demonstrate and show and work towards having the impactful research. So again, it's the skill building, it's the networks and the resources that we're trying to develop through the different activities that Kai will actually now talk about.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Larena, for that introduction. As she said, I'm going to move in and talk a little bit about the different activities that are planned through this. So we have a series of activities planned over the next about a year or so, and I'm going to take you through all of them now, so we have an idea of what they're going to look like, as well as the timelines that we'll see them on. So the first activity that we have planned is a knowledge translation field school. So this is a series of webinars that we're going to be hosting through the month of November. And our goal here is to develop kind of understanding of both the theory behind as well as the practical skills for communicating research findings to knowledge users. So we've got a really exciting kind of set of these webinars laid out. The first one is going to be just thinking about knowledge mobilization and translation and what that can look like. So thinking about who your knowledge users are, how you can conceptualize knowledge mobilization and translation. And then in the next 3 webinars, we're going to be talking about policy briefs, or thinking about how we can get research and knowledge to policymakers. The second one will be on graphical abstracts and visualizations. And then the final one will be on engaging the media. So whether that's speaking to the media or writing from the media. So this series of webinars is really kind of designed for people who are to get an introduction to this. So we kind of conceptualize this as, perhaps students or early career researchers, but also anyone who may want to refine skills or learn a new skill. So people are certainly welcome to just join for one. If you just want to learn about policy briefs, you can just drop into that one. But we will encourage people to kind of attend all of them if they can. And what we would like to do is we earmarked quite a bit of the funding to support student participation in some of these events. So if graduate students are able to participate in all or most of these, and then they would like to develop a knowledge translation output, there will be some funding available to support them participating in one of the later events, the workshop that will take place in person. So something to put on the radar there and to share with anyone who might be interested in that opportunity. The second event that we'll be hosting, or series of workshops, is a case study writing workshop. So this is teaching case studies, and the goal of this series of webinars will be to develop an understanding of what teaching cases are and how we can teach with teaching cases, and then to develop the skills to actually develop and write these. So really fortunate to have Dr. Michael Larena as one of our collaborators. He is the editor of the Case Studies in Sport Management Journal. So he's gonna kind of walk us through this process. We'll confirm the dates in the spring, but we're planning for about a March timeline here. And this will be 3 3 sessions. First one will be thinking about the theory of case study teaching. The second one will be on writing the case narrative, and then the final one will be on writing the teaching note. And our goal here is to provide people at any stage of their career with some of the skills to write these teaching cases so that they can communicate some of these real-world issues they're dealing with in their research as a teaching resource. So communicating it in a different way so that it becomes a teaching resource for others to use in a variety of different courses. The third one, one I'm really excited for, is our community forum. So working with our partners at the MLSE Launchpad, we're going to host a community forum for practitioners and policymakers on working in researcher relationships or navigating the dynamics of researcher-practitioner partnerships. So the MLSE Launchpad annually every year in the spring hosts a research to practice symposium. So we'll be working with them to align this with that and really work towards building capacity for engaging in research partnerships. So our goals of this will be to develop an understanding of the research process as well as promising practices for engaging in research partnerships and an understanding of what successful partnerships and engagements can look like. So our hope here is to engage a variety of practitioners and policymakers and to demystify some of the research process and create some of the resources for them as well. Date for that one will also be finalized, but we'll be looking towards the spring, so probably April or May. Next up, we have a series of podcasts. So working with the folks behind the State of Sport Management podcast, we have a series of graduate students and practitioners lined up who are going to speak about their successful research and knowledge exchange initiatives. And so we've got a series of them lined up. Over the next few months, they'll be working with Matt Hummel, who runs the State of Sport Management podcast, and he will be working with them to get those set up and published, hopefully towards the new year. Next up, and you may have already seen some of the information come through the listservs on this one, but working with colleagues Dr. Audrey Giles and Robin Smith, we have already accepted proposals for chapters for an edited volume on participatory research in sport and exercise. So this edited volume is designed to be a practical guide for engaging in participatory research methods and participatory action research. So you can watch for more details as we move along with that process, but really looking forward to bringing that together in the coming months as well. Next up, and this is kind of the big event that we're planning for here, this is our in-person component to this program, is an interdisciplinary workshop on qualitative research methods. So we have tentatively lined this up to be hosted in Montreal on May 29th and 30th. And so this falls between the CALS meeting, so the Canadian Association for Leisure Studies meeting in Ottawa, which happens the week before, and then the NASM, the North American Society for Sport Management Conference, that will be happening that week in Montreal. So if you aren't familiar with these two organizations, I encourage you to check them out. It's a great opportunity to kind of knock off 2 conferences in one trip. Ottawa and Montreal are pretty close to each other. And then we are planning this workshop to take place in between those two. And we have a series of scholars lined up here that we're really excited to work with and to run some kind of extended sessions in a workshop style. On several different key issues there in terms of qualitative methods. So our tentative plans right now are looking at the philosophy of science, evaluation methods, co-production and participatory research, critical and anti-oppression frameworks, as well as digital qualitative methods. So we'll be firming up the details on that in the coming months, and we'll be sure to circulate all that information with you. So definitely keep your eyes peeled and watch for that communication as things become finalized. And then last but not least, we will be archiving all of this material on a project webpage. So you can scan that QR code there. It will take you to that preliminary page. We have it set up now with just kind of brief descriptions of all of these components. And then as much as we can, we're going to record everything and publish them so that they stay available to people on that website. Our goal is really to make as much of the outputs from all of these activities to keep them open access and accessible to everyone at the end. So that's where we will be centralizing all that so we can find all of that information in one spot. So I encourage you to check that out. You can scan that QR code, you can screenshot it and share it with whoever else might be interested. And we'll continue to update that page throughout the year as these things become available. So that's what I have for now. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm really looking forward to the next year and all the activities and working with everybody together on that. And I look forward to connecting with a lot of you on this.